Yeah, well, that's a nice way to put it. We'll say. Um, we probably should shift back onto your game at some point,
Sure, yeah,
shouldn't we?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I guess one thing I did want to ask is why did you want to make a game like this?
Well, yeah, I mean, ever since I was a boy, you know how like you play games when you're a kid
Mm.
and you think, hey, this is great, this is so cool, I could make something. And so what I did was I tried to make a game when I was a teenager, and I just did not have any skills. So I just failed utterly. I
Mhm.
didn't know how to code, I didn't have any art skills. I had a bit of music skills, played the synthesizer back then. But I
So how
didn't.
did you try to approach it? What were you trying to use at the
There was,
time?
well, I had an Amiga, and there was a program called Amos.
Mm,
So this is kind of like a toolkit, like a Unity type of thing,
mm,
but it allows you to make games on your Amiga,
mhm.
but not high quality games, but it's having a copy of that sort of opened the doors to let's make a game together. Got a
Right.
couple of friends together from school. We tried to make a game. It was kind of a gauntlet type of game, top-down fighting kind of thing.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Obviously well pre-Diablo, and yeah, we got barely any way into it. And
Mhm,
then I tried again in my 20s because I learned how to code C++,
mhm.
and it was a case of, all right, well, I've got like all these friends from training.
Mhm.
We got like 20 people together, and we're going to make an RTS in the early 2000s. Um,
Mhm.
and we got barely anywhere because we didn't have any management skills. There was no income, there's no funding. It's like, running a studio is not just about ambition. There's a lot more to it. So we
Right.
failed again. So that's sort of stuck with me, as a personal failure for my whole life. And when I got to a point where I was able to take some time off of contracting,
Mhm.
IT work, I decided that I was going to fix that gap. I was going to fix that personal failure, and I was going to make something and finish it. Because this is the hardest part about game development, finishing it.
Well,
And
starting it
luckily,
and finishing it, those are two massive problems. Starting it where it's like,
yes.
I have an idea, but like you're not fully committed to actually doing the work. And then
Yeah.
finishing it where you're like, I don't know what is done. How much do I want to add into the game? Where is the stopping point? Everything in between, that's the fun part.
Absolutely. Everything about game dev is hilarious. It's so much fun.
Mhm.
And, you could easily just get wrapped up just building new features for your game for the rest of your life. But you do have to, at some point, say that enough is enough
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
say this is the feature set and it's called feature freeze. And I learned a little bit about that when I was doing corporate projects, because if you don't feature freeze, the budget just triples. And and then you end up with a cancelled project because you
Mhm.
can't afford it anymore. Um, and this is probably another reason why studios have been closing lately, because of feature creep.
Mhm.
Um, but I decided that I would go ahead and fix that gap and finish a game.
Mhm.
And I estimated it would take me about a year.
Mhm.
So 2.5 years later, and I haven't finished yet. That's okay. I'm having an absolute ball.
Mhm.
I'm not
Mhm.
upset by that. And the more time you put into your game, the more polished it is, the more features it's got, the more levels it's got. And playtime is actually an important part of selling an indie game,
Mhm.
because if you make a game that lasts for 30 minutes, nobody will buy it. Whereas I'm making a game that's 35 hours long, and I'm hoping that that's a selling point,
Mhm.
because people are looking for a role-playing game that takes up a couple of weeks
Mhm. Mhm.
or months of their time, and doesn't get boring in the meantime. We're not talking fluff. We're talking about an actual storyline
Right. Right. Right.
and a variety of different combats and monsters that see you through that time. I
Mhm.
actually cut it down from 45 hours because I got a lot of feedback from people saying, 45's a long time.
Mhm.
They would prefer a 35-hour game that was more focused,
Right.
that had a storyline that moved along at a certain pace, where there was no repetition and there was no, doing the same combat twice.
Mhm.
And I agreed with all of those points. So I cut. It was the hardest thing ever. I cut nearly a whole act of levels out of my game and cut the story to match. And I basically said, look, I'm going to have to take all of that story and I'm going to stick it into the expansion set. Make that a DLC. So if the game sells well, I'll be making an expansion for it with all of those cutting room floor levels. But so 30, I think playtime's important, and polish is very, very important, because if you release a game with lots of bugs, especially game-breaking bugs, you'll get very poor reviews and you'll get very poor sales. But if you if you focus on polish and a bit of play length, I think you're in a good place for your indie game.
I
forgot what the question was. Was that the question?
It's kind of related to it.
Yeah.